NASA headed for the real outer limits, 4 billion miles from Earth, on a mission that inspired a slightly unusual New Year celebration. Jeffrey Brown launches our story with this report.
I don't know about all of you, but I'm really liking this 2019 thing so far.
It was a spectacular way to bring in the new year, as NASA scientists confirmed that the New Horizons spacecraft had successfully reached the farthest object ever explored, a small icy world called Ultima Thule. New Horizons arrived 3.5 years after it had flown past Pluto, and 13 years after the craft, the size of a minivan, first left Earth.
We have liftoff of NASA's New Horizons.
Ultima Thule is 1 billion miles farther than Pluto, located in what's called the Kuiper Belt, on the outer edge of our solar system. It's small, about 20 miles across, and as seen in the first rudimentary images, seems to be shaped like a bowling pin.
Now, the image that I'm about to show you is the best image of Ultima that we got pre-flyby, and it's okay to laugh, but it's better than the one we had yesterday. There it is. Meet Ultima.
We are definitely looking forward to getting down this science data so all of our scientists and the world can see what the outer solar system, the origins of our solar system, have to hold for us, what surprises.
The celebration, children along with the science team and guests, began last night at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab in Laurel, Maryland. At the moment, New Horizons was scheduled to fly by and take photos of Ultima Thule.
2, 1, go New Horizons!
One of those celebrating, astrophysicist Brian May, who also happens to be lead guitarist for the rock band Queen. He wrote a new song for the occasion.
This mission to me represents more than the mission itself. It actually represents to me the spirit of adventure and discovery and inquiry which is inherent in the human spirit.
New images of Ultima Thule are expected to be sent back to Earth in the coming days. And for more on this mission and what it took to get there, we're joined by our own resident space expert, Miles O'Brien from Vero Beach, Florida. Miles, welcome. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you, Jeff.
So tell us more about the mission of New Horizons. What's it after so far from home?
It's looking for really our origins, Jeff. When you go out to this very distant aspect, this very distant place in our solar system, the so-called Kuiper Belt, there are a lot of cold bodies that are orbiting around there in a deep freeze, and they've been pretty much left there in that deep freeze undeterred for 4.5 billion years. Pluto is in the Kuiper Belt. This is one of the other objects in the Kuiper Belt. And the idea is if you can understand these objects well, you can really see where we all came from and know a little bit more about the formation of all the planets.
So this particular object, Ultima Thule, which has a wonderful name, which sounds maybe like a Marvel character or a rock band or something, right? What's the importance of it?
Well, it's a target of opportunity for one thing. So when New Horizons launched in 2006, it headed toward Pluto. And in the summer of 2015, we had that amazing flyby of Pluto. They still had some gas in the tank, if you will. And so they decided to start picking another location to fly by. The reason it's interesting is it's so unlikely that much has changed there over the past 4.5 billion years. So going into the deep freeze and learning what is in that deep freeze is of great interest to scientists.
So how difficult was this to find it, to get there, to take the photos, and how did they manage to do it?
You know, it boggles the mind, frankly, to think about the navigation task that was entailed there and how easily it could have gone awry. What's really kind of interesting about it as well is this is a drive-by at 30,000 miles an hour. And during the key time when all the science is gathered, there is no direct communication between the spacecraft and Earth. It's pointing its camera and antennas at the object. And so everything had to be kind of locked and preloaded in. And they had to do some, frankly, a little bit of educated guessing as to where to aim the lens as it flew by. We won't know for certain how well they did probably until tomorrow.
You know, Miles, we did a remembrance the other night of the 50th anniversary of Apollo 8, the first manned mission to see the other side of the moon. And I was thinking about how that's a earlier age of space exploration. When you look at what they're doing now with a mission like this, put that in context. Where are we at these days?
Well, this is the farthest body that has ever been explored by a spacecraft, and it's actually its second flyby. So it's picked up kind of this target of opportunity for science as well. But I think what it tells us is that NASA is still in business. You know, there is this assumption that because the shuttle program has been retired and there is no NASA capability for putting astronauts into space at the moment, that somehow NASA is not in the game anymore. To the contrary, these missions are fascinating, exciting, and takes us to new worlds, even if there aren't people putting footprints on them.
You know, there's one other poignant aspect to this, I think, Miles. The Ultima Thule was actually seen first by the Hubble telescope, and a woman named Nancy Roman, who is known as the mother of the Hubble, just died earlier this week. Tell us about her.
Well, Nancy Roman shattered every glass ceiling you could imagine. As a child growing up in Reno, Nevada, she looked to the skies and became fascinated with astronomy and never let go. And ultimately got her degree at the University of Chicago, made her way to NASA. Every job she took, she was a pioneer, ultimately became the first female executive NASA and the first chief astronomer, period. And she managed to make Hubble happen. She retired before it was launched, but she still stayed close to that program. And her memory lives on.
All right, quite an achievement all around. Miles O'Brien, thanks very much.
You're welcome, Jeff.